Hello,
Good evening.
good evening. Had a little trouble there. New computer, it just wouldn't accept Zoom for some reason. Okay. How's everybody? I
Good.
guess we're missing. Let's see. Hello, Aaron. Welcome. I got a note from Mariah about a couple hours ago. She's not going to make it tonight.
Okay.
So I think we're all here. Is Bert? I don't see Bert. No. Yeah. Okay. Well, we do have a quorum here, and we are recording. So shall we call it 6:15 starting time?
Can I just say that I'm not a member of the quorum. I think you know that. And I got delayed at the assessor's office, so I'm driving home. So I'm gonna turn off my sound and picture till I get home, but I'm listening.
All right,
Thank you.
sure. Let's see. We have just about a quorum. Yes, indeed. Okay, just give me 1 second, and we'll take a look at this here.
So Aaron, have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Good, I can put it in the minutes. You're official.
All right, so we don't have any minutes this time round.
Correct.
So let's move on to the guide board update. As far as I know, I think we're waiting to hear from Williamstown about the roof, and if it changes anything in terms of the cost. Is there any other comment, Matteo?
I think that since the last time that we met, the CPC voted on the, or no, has not yet voted on the applications, correct? That's what we're doing on or tomorrow night's meeting is voting on the applications. But there
That's
was
right.
there was a question that came up from one of the CPC members about they were fine with the idea of returning the roof to the original configuration.
Mhm.
They seemed fine with that. But somebody pointed out that the description of the work that Williamstown is going to do with the shingles, which is what Smolsky recommended, doesn't align with what appears to be in the photographs from 1938, where the roof piece looks to be like possibly one single piece of lead or copper or asphalt or like some solid material. And so this CPC member asked if we are trying to return to the original roof, whether we should be doing that instead. So Henry and I reached out to Peter Mahoney at Williamstown to ask about the feasibility of that, whether it would be a problem, and specifically about the cost, and we have not heard back from him.
Right. All right. So it's a technical issue. I don't think it's a major question. Uh, Hopefully, it won't change the budget that much. Yeah. Okay. Shall we move on then? Next item is it has to do with damaged stone walls, and Matteo, again, I put this on purpose right next to the guideboard because you brought it up, and it is an issue that's come up on the commission. Not so much the damages to stone walls, but the very idea of preserving those stone walls in town. But could you elaborate on that, Matteo?
I mean, most of you have probably seen the tree work that's been going on, I think along West Pelham and Pratt Corner and Locks Pond Road and Wendell Road. I don't know if they're elsewhere in town, but it's Nelson Tree Service, which is contracted by National Grid to remove what they're calling nuisance trees, which are unfortunately a lot of really nice trees um, that are just being um, destroyed. But it's going to obviously keep the electrical service running. The concern that I had was that I noticed in several places on Locks Pond Road and Wendell Road that some of that work is there are down trees that are being left on stone walls, and stone walls being sort of disassembled either inadvertently or in the process of trying to access some of the trees. Um, so I don't know. I did speak to the foreman of one of the crews and made him aware, that this is an issue. There are, mass general laws that protect historic stone walls. Um, so, in theory, his crew is now aware of it and will hopefully, I don't know, be more careful. I don't know if it's something that we want to keep watching for, but it also raises the question about whether we want to recommend to the select board that any of the roads in town be designated scenic byways, um, which would then add a further layer of protection involving any tree work.
Yeah, I know that. Well, I'll let. Any comments, observations about this?
This is Janice. I would say that it was several years ago we did have a long discussion about doing scenic byways act or whatever in town, which would include stone walls and maybe other stone features and stuff like that. We didn't get very far. Generally, the state expects that the planning board does the scenic byways and scenic roads, and so and that they're then in charge of making sure that it's being followed. So we sort of, I don't know, we just got too busy and didn't get into the rest of it. But it was of interest certainly to me, and especially to save the stone walls.
Yeah, so what would happen with this is chapter 40, section 15C
Mhm.
is if the select board designated a road a scenic byway, then the planning board would basically have to hold a public hearing um, with the tree warden um, involved if there was to be any work that would involve cutting or removing trees or altering stone walls along that road. And the recommendation to the select board can come from either come from the planning board, the conservation commission, or the historical commission. So we do, under Mass General Law, have the ability to recommend that to the select board. The question is like, which roads would we want to, and what would we be asked to do to try to justify that? But it would ultimately under the law fall to the planning board then to be responsible for implementing it.
Leslie.
Thank you. I'm still in the car, but I've pulled over.
Mhm.
Just to
Good.
add the 20-year history to it, which Janice may have heard before, make that 30 or 40 years.
Wow.
And I'm not sure it's how it stands, but Bill Randall, who passed away in 1999, so that shows you how far back I'm going. When earlier iteration of a historical commission, well, I'm not sure which department was pursuing this. Bill, who made our maps, went through every road in town, and our roads are mostly what were county roads at the time, and we did not have jurisdiction over them. And the only road that had a stone wall on it that was still a town road was Plaza Road. But now, just as I say it, I think that jurisdiction over county roads became community. So in that sense, I think you can. I apologize for taking your time. I stopped when I heard it just to add that history, but I think that's changed now. It used to be that we did not have jurisdiction over many of the roads. Sorry, I'm done. I'm
No,
going to drive home the
I
rest
think
of the
I
way.
think it's a good point because in the statute it does say that numbered routes and state highways obviously cannot fall under under the scenic byway or scenic road. The entire length has to be contained within the boundaries of said city or town, and no part of said route is owned or maintained by the Commonwealth.
Right. And I think it used to say, maybe used to say county too, because that's what Bill found, that the only road that would be impacted was John Plaza Road. But now the Wendell Locks Pond, that's all within the jurisdiction, and that was a county road. I don't know how one determines if we legally got jurisdiction over our county roads. West Pelham was county, that goes into Pelham now. Same with Pelham Hill. Same with Montague, goes into Leverett. I just don't know. I'm gonna hang up and finish driving home. Sorry.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, Erin, yes.
I just have a question about procedure. So it sounds like if if we were to make such a recommendation or want to move this forward, it would be to make a recommendation to the select board, and then the select board would take it from there, proceeding with the hearing that Matteo mentioned. Is there any, and what I'm trying to understand really more specifically, is there any like labor involved in this project that we want to be mindful of as volunteers?
So the process would be that we would recommend a request to the select board that this road and this road and this road, or whichever ones, would be designated scenic byways. And then the select board would have the authority to say yes or no to that. If they say yes to any of those roads, then any repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work on those roads that would involve cutting or removing trees or altering stone walls would have to be approved by the planning board, and the planning board would have to hold a public hearing, and there's all kinds of rules about how that hearing would be held, along with the tree warden. But
So it seems like the main thing that would just need to be done by this group is to determine which roads would be eligible under the guidelines that you just, under the definitions that you just stated that the law makes.
Yeah, and the law is really vague. It just says, it may designate any road in said city or town other than a numbered route or state highway as a scenic road. And it doesn't provide any explanation for what what justifies calling something a scenic road. There may be existing legal advisories or case law or other information that would help us make that decision, but I think it would largely be what we think would be compelling to the select board in trying to make that determination. And I'm assuming it's the select board because the state law just says the town may. And I'm assuming that means the select board can do it without having to go to town meeting.
So if we're seeking to protect stone walls, then it's roads, we would want to identify roads with historic town walls. So it would be like step one, list of roads with historic town walls. Step two, evaluate that list to see if which of those roads would be worthy of recommendation. Am I making sense about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, that was sort of, if I'm not mistaken, Janice, that was sort of the anticipated plan, right? To basically survey the roads.
Well, I think just by, driving up and down them or whatever, most of us knew the town roads anyway.
Yep.
But I think part of it was looking at different towns have different rules or whatever having to do with protection of stone walls in the, sort of along the roadways and some of those sorts of things. So we were just looking at a number of different examples from different towns, from the other parts of the state and locally. And I can probably find some of those, although maybe there's some new ones. I think that probably the FERCog can give us some help on this. They do a lot with roads, and they're probably very familiar with the procedure for scenic roads and can, give us some advice and maybe some good examples on that. I mean, I can check on that, or if someone else wants to, they can.
Yeah. And now for the damaged wall, I guess there's nothing that can be done more immediately.
I mean, as I said, I talked to the foreman on the crew that's at least working on Wendell and Locks Pond, and made him aware of it, and I also put it in writing.
Mhm.
That's good.
And sent it to him and to the forester who had marked who was doing the tree marking. Yeah, I don't know what else or what more we can do, or if we want to do more.
Right.
I just did a little dig online, and
Mhm.
it seems like there are some towns that do the scenic road thing and they present it to town meeting. Like Uxbridge requires a majority vote of town meeting.
Mhm.
Would make sense.
Yeah, I would be curious to know though, Janice, if you want to talk to FERCog about
Yeah,
it. There
I
are
will.
other, because
Yeah.
it seems like it's very generic. Like Mass DOT says, if the road has outstanding scenic, historic, cultural, natural, recreational, or archaeological qualities, which is
Yeah.
pretty capacious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Got to
Yeah,
fill in the lines.
I'll check in on that because I think we ran into something of a quote roadblock unquote at some point that had to do with designating scenic roads, and I can't remember what it was now. But I'll check with FERCog. I'll try to find old notes and see what I can find out for next meeting.
Great.
But I like the idea.
Any other thoughts on it? Okay. Next up, let's see. The HC account, our own account. And I want to, let's see, 1 second. There it is. So I'll share. Ooh. There we go. I'm going to share the screen. My browser is preventing me from sharing my screen. Okay. That's the trouble when you just a slight
Yeah.
change in the hardware, and this thing is now okay. Well, allow me to verbalize, and just as by way of summary, Gail Weiss. Hello. Did somebody have a comment? Yeah. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So Gail, our town accountant, informed you all got a copy of the account. Yes, it's very hard. It's a Byzantine looking document.
Yes.
But just to give you an overview, she assured me that the glitch in which the monies paid to Williamstown for the guide board, 50%, remember, 8,500 or so. That was paid out of our account at one time. Do you recall?
Yes.
Instead of coming out of the CPA account, it was taken out of our own account, our current account, and she has now recovered that money. So we have in our account, according to Gail, 20,000+. And I did look closely for the monies from the Quabbin event.
Yeah.
It's $1,116. That is in there. In fact, that's one of the few things that forms of income that we've had in the past year.
What pages are those things on?
Oh,
the
okay.
balance?
Go to the very, let's see, page 5. At the bottom of page 5.
Okay.
They have a lot of other categories here that do not correspond to us, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a whole list of things, but on page 5, let's see, I guess it's at the top,
Okay.
the very top. You can see there, this is sort of a summary of the totals. 20,689.44. That appears to be the ending balance.
Okay.
And this amount here, this credit, you see that 1,116.
Okay, so that's the Schmidt account for the Quabbin Memorial Parade.
That is it, yeah.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a gift that's included in the 20,000. There's a gift that we got for let's see, the school, the elementary school.
What was that? For a gift to the Historical Commission?
I believe so.
From the school?
Let's see, one second.
I think what you might be referring to, and I'm on my phone, so I can't open up, is the gift of the Friends of the Historical Commission for the West Schoolhouse.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Ended up there. And yeah, I agree with you. It's a little confusing to read that ledger and figure out what actually we have control over.
Mm-hmm.
There's the gift that the Friends gave to the Cemetery Commission that shows up, but it's really not it's not Historical Commission. We don't
manage that.
Yeah, it says right in the Friends vote that it would be a vote of the Cemetery Commission. And I actually checked with the chairman of the Cemetery Commission about that one because I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. And he said, well, as a matter of fact, that money, it was just spent and I just put the warrant into the town accountant. So you won't be seeing that one anymore.
Mm-hmm. That was the $467?
No, 3,000.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to interpret it all.
Yeah, I think on that page 5, the sort of totals, I think that the Veterans Heritage Grant expenses that's still there is the one that I got ages ago, before COVID, just before COVID sometime. And part of it was for the cemetery to redo a bunch of stones. And I think that was done and that was okay. And then this was the remainder that was supposed to go towards repainting the War Memorial on the Common. And I had a painter lined up and then he sort of disappeared with COVID and tried to make contact again and never really wanted to. So it sits there until we can come up with another way to get it painted. So that's why
Okay.
that one's still there.
And just to remind you that there are $360 that if we have a purpose for them, we should expend them before the end of the fiscal year in July.
Okay.
Because well, we'll just be getting another 360 next year, I suppose. But you know, there's never a guarantee. But it doesn't carry over.
I would
is that-
say if worse comes to worse and you don't think of a big item, I would request a few more thumb drives, because anytime anybody asks me for something, I scan them, and I've got almost a full drive of my own. Well, I don't even know how much is on it. I used one of my own.
Ah,
And it's not really the Shrab method of doing things. It's just what I'm doing by the seat of my pants with the cold building. And if people ask for something, I grab the records and bring them over, and I'm saving them. As long as I'm scanning them, I might as well be saving them. But that's not a big expense, and I'm glad to donate it. But if you end up, we don't have a use for this money, get a couple new thumb drives.
how big, how much megabytes or gigabytes or whatever do you want on those thumb drives?
It doesn't really matter. I can't tell you. I keep the one that I've donated stays in the assessor's computer, in one of the holes, because so often I come across something and I save it. I can't tell you. It's not extensive. It doesn't have to be big.
Uh-huh.
But perhaps Leslie, perhaps you could just come up with a little list of how many and how much, approximately
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
might be on them. And yeah, I assume this is a feasible through this money.
Yes, for operating.
It's a appropriate expense. Yeah.
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 I'd be glad to go down to Staples and get them and process everything and get you to sign it.
Yeah.
I'm just talking one or two thumb drives, and I don't even know how much they cost these days. You can watch Staples and get a bargain.
Right.
I would do it.
Yeah.
But if you can think of a big project, as I say, this is just me doing my own thing.
Is there
No.
anything we need for the schoolhouse, for instance?
I don't believe
We'd have to ask
Bert
I
might
guess,
know.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have a few months to think about it, but it's something to.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. So at least we know we have money. I mean, at one point we were not sure.
Yeah.
So we know, and we have it in black and white. This is how much the amount is.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. What's up next? So the next two items I think kind of work in tandem. I just want to make a few remarks about this. I sent you a few documents, primarily because I'm still working through this in my own mind as to how to, basically frame this whole business, because these two things are interrelated. We're talking about metal detector policy and archaeological accountability policy. Obviously interrelated. They both have to do with the potential disturbance of potential sites, archaeological sites. And I sent, of course, some samples of archaeological policies, accountability policies, one from Northfield, one from Deerfield, and they're very, very similar, if you'll notice. Uh, they don't actually mention the idea of poaching or, but it's more of a positive spin, right? We're basically communicating with the community of archaeologists who might be out there doing this kind of work, and we'd like some degree of accountability. That's the whole point. The towns that have a metal detector policy, as you notice from the range of, basically is, I found that they were also kind of generic. They probably copycat one another. But the typical one is the one from Phillipston, for example. You may have seen there. Oh God. There you go. Where you have a very straightforward list of criteria, and the one from Carlisle I found very, very interesting, because what they do there is they make this fall under the jurisdiction of both the Conservation Commission and the Historical Commission. Because I presume because it's we're looking at disturbance of the ground, and therefore an issue for the Conservation Commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so any metal detecting has to be cleared through, in other words, I'll read it briefly. Metal detecting of town-owned plowed fields is allowed only by permit duly issued by the Conservation Commission and agreed to by the Carlisle Historical Society. Yeah. And anything that's recovered has to be shared with the Historical Commission. Now, I don't know how far we want to go with this and how much we want to integrate this with the Conservation Commission. It sort of expands the degree of, I guess, regulation. Just just as a matter of information, the DCR absolutely prohibits metal detecting on the grounds that basically it's a prelude to poaching. And I mean that's possibly another way to go with this. And I don't know. I go back and forth on it. You want people to collaborate. Community collaboration. They're going to be people who will collaborate and cooperate on this. And if they find anything, they will come to this Historical Commission. Blah blah blah. Whereas if you have a blanket, no metal detecting, and absolutely, there isn't that option. So it's a little more complicated than I initially thought. I don't know how you feel about it so far. Perhaps you need more information. I want to think about this a bit more. But in my experience, and I've actually had experience, working with archaeologists in Mexico and Peru around this issue, and just in general, one of the lessons learned in this area is that the community is a vital resource in actually finding things. Yeah, there just aren't enough archaeologists, and they're not really that interested in pursuing Northeast archaeology in this case. But community, well, amateur archaeologists have a function, and so I think that a better policy is to at least incorporate that dimension. Yes, there's poaching, that's inevitable, but you cannot, in essence, you cannot control it. You'd have to have cameras everywhere. It's just impossible to control. The best I think that one could expect is that, cooperation by, folks who have good intentions, to allow everyone to benefit from any findings. So anyway, that's any thoughts?
Well, I'll pop up if no one else is.
Yep.
I think both the Northfield and the Deerfield one are mostly just the archaeological accountability, as in dealing with our professional archaeologists and whatever they may find in town, which is
Correct.
different. And I think people will follow those rules. What I worry about more is the local things for the metal detecting, where how do you enforce it? You can say that they need a permit, or that there is none in town on, let's say, on conservation lands or something like that, but I doubt that the police are going to spend the time enforcing it. And so we'll have it there in case anyone reports it, and that would be good to have. And we can put it on the website or something. It won't stop everything, but maybe it'll at least help.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
I think that Janice's point is a really good one, which is that, like, even if there are doubts that we can enforce something, constantly, it's a statement about values that we put it forward. It can act as a deterrent if there is a fine or something. Like, if somebody goes through the trouble to find out about it and sees that there's potentially a penalty or something involved with violating this rule, that person might think twice about it. But maybe we aren't able to enforce it. I mean, I really doubt the police are going to be enforcing it unless, somebody calls and reports kind of activities.
Mhm.
I don't know that that's necessarily a reason not to have the law, to have that expectation out there. I mean, I'm assuming I guess this was my other question for Henry about, like,
Mhm.
is this a policy that we can adopt or the select board can adopt, or is this going to be like a bylaw that needs to go to town meeting?
Exactly. I don't have an answer, but I presume this has to go before town meeting as a policy addition to the town. No?
I mean, if it's a policy, I think that the select board can just adopt it, right? But if it's a bylaw, then
Um,
then it would have to go. And I'm
mm,
not entirely sure what the distinction would be. I guess if there's going to be a penalty attached to it, it would have to be a bylaw, right?
I don't know. I can find out though. Find out. Yeah.
It does look like the Falmouth and the Phillipston are both policy, and
Mhm.
it looks like probably Carlisle is too.
Yeah. There are
There's nothing
rules.
about
There are
the
rules.
rules,
There are rules.
but I don't see any penalty.
The
Yeah.
only penalty I see is in the Carlisle one. It says any applicant found to have violated these rules risks having their permit revoked or may be
Ah.
prosecuted for theft.
There you go. It is I guess, a crime. The police would be
Oh, okay.
be triggered
Okay.
there.
I
Yeah.
like the idea that Janice and Mateo are saying, that at least if there's something, even though we know that it's not going to be the highest priority,
Mhm.
and it gives you a little basis. I observed this happening once on the town common, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm digging for buttons and coins." And I had no anything to fall back on. And at that time, I know I went to the historical commission went to the select board. Policies get forgotten, but at least if the historical commission members know they're there, it's helpful. I will look in the closet room. It's getting warm now, and see if I can find that. But I did like any or all of the ones that you had for example, but something that at least you can say, our town has a policy against this. Please communicate with the select board or something, because there may be a penalty or fine.
Yeah.
Even if we know there isn't, it's a help.
And this came about because, right, was it last year or the year before, the chief of police asked us, because somebody had contacted the police, very courteous of them, but had contacted us to say, is there a town policy? I'm planning to come and do some detection. What are the rules?
And there is. It's, I tell you, we did this once. I just have to find it.
That's great.
But what Henry has pulled up for us is so much more comprehensive than what we did. And of course, then what happened was, and there was no digging on town property. And the next year, when Celebrate Shutesbury came along and put up their tents on the town common, I kind of chuckled to myself. Okay.
Right. Well, what I'm hearing here is that we should go ahead with a metal detector set of rules, at least. The next step here would be whether, I mean, the Carlisle vision rules, they implicate the Conservation Commission, which, you know, makes sense. But, you know, we'd have to dialogue with them, I suppose, if that's what we wanted to do. I mean, you know, Janice, I wonder what you think about that. Is that a practical thing? Is it something that
I think so. I would think that they would probably go along with that. I mean, again, or maybe they'd limit it in terms of like Carlisle does. I thought theirs was like 4 inches by 12 inches. I thought that was still more disturbance than really they should have, but I don't know. But we can work on it from there. We should also probably check in with the select board to see if they are aware of anything for town land in general, or if they have any feelings about, you know, town property that's not just Concom, but like Leslie was saying, town common, those sorts of places. I mean, because ideally we'd all work together, you know, and be on the same page.
Absolutely. No, it has to be, and anyway, so Leslie, could you forward that information?
I've already written myself a note to look and see.
Okay, thank you.
How long ago do you think it was, Leslie? Like the 90s?
No, I would say in the 00s.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. A little better.
As I say, I don't believe that I surveyed other towns. And I can't remember if it was just no digging or if it actually included work with wording about metal detectors. I think it was just no digging on town property.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a start at any rate.
Yep. So I will check into this question of you know, the distinction between rules and again policy and whether, you know, how those things work. And I will also contact the Conservation Commission and pose this, you know, propose a coordinated approach to metal detecting. Is that the will of the committee?
I think so.
And as a previous town clerk, I can tell you a bylaw is something that is voted at town meeting, and a policy the select board can vote themselves.
Okay.
We have lists of select board policies that nobody knows about. So the one list I have in the historical commission closet, and I
Look,
lost
There's
somehow.
a policy page on the town website. Everything should
Oh.
be up there.
Yeah.
No, not this list that was hand typewritten by Jane Davis in the early 90s.
Ah,
Right. So I will attend one of their I will attend one of the Conservation Commission meetings just to with this in mind, and
Okay.
see what they think and get their input on it.
yeah. Okay.
Yep. All right. Good. Yeah. These things, you start in on them and you realize, they're a little more complicated. But I
Oh,
like it too. I like the Carlisle version.
Mhm.
It's anyway, and I think the archaeological policy, or if there is one, I think that would be a much broader and something we should really be considering. I don't we don't have one, and just so archaeologists at least know that there are procedures here.
And Matteo, I know you brought up something under mass historical or state regulation about no metal detecting or digging or something. Was that just on state land, or was that all? I mean, I don't remember the details on that.
I can go back in my email and take a look to see, but my understanding was that it was all public property. In order to do any digging on public property, whether it's state-owned or town-owned, you need to have a permit from the or I forget the title, but it's like the chief archaeologist.
Oh, okay. All right. So we have to keep that in mind, and that should be an important part of our preface or whatever too, and make sure that somehow we're in proper coordination on that.
Could you just summarize what you just were
This is
saying?
this is the email from May of last year
Yep.
from the Mass Historical Commission. Digging on public lands for artifacts without obtaining a state archaeologist field investigation permit is illegal.
There.
It is required for many other circumstances as well. And then there's a bunch of citations to CMR and Mass General Law that he sent me. But basically, it just public land.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yep.
good way
Yep.
to start.
Yep. Yep.
That gives us a lot more authority.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's enough said, I think, unless there's any other commentary. Okay. All right. Hmm. Any thoughts on the archaeological policies that I circulated? I mean, the two that I found basically are from, as I said, Northfield and Deerfield. They were drafted in around 2014, but they look very similar. And I guess we can use them as a template of sorts. There aren't that many around.
We did institute an archaeological accountability
Mhm.
thing with Mass Historical a few years ago. It looks like it was 2021. Having to do with being able to have security for confidential files. That if
Yes.
Mass Historical does any work in town, that they can tell us and we can keep a copy, but it's not open to the public, sort of thing.
The Deerfield one seems very permissive. Everything is expressed as we request that the archaeologist may. It just seems very. The archaeologist in turn could assist. I don't know.
I think that that language, thinking about what you said earlier, Matteo, about how policies like this often are ways of expressing community values. I think also the vagueness in the wording, like may, or encouraging certain behaviors rather than requiring them, is a way to maintain the flexibility that is needed for dealing with these kinds of physical objects. Because it seems like the purpose of these policies is to suggest that it's not such a good idea. It's important to be thoughtful before removing things to other facilities for long-term storage. That said, there are a lot of advantages to accepting the opportunity for help in long-term, in stewardship, like long-term, especially perpetual stewardship of those kinds of objects. So from my perspective, the vague wording might seem a little too loosey-goosey, but there are good reasons. I think there are good reasons for that. Because you don't want to start saying, we're going to keep everything here forever, because then you have to do it. And that's really, really quite difficult, especially with different kinds of things. Like I'm thinking about something like textiles. When textiles are kept, those can create all kinds of challenges for, like, yeah, attracting insects, being like eaten up. Most towns aren't going to have the resources to care for those kinds of things. Henry seems to have disappeared. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I know.
But hopefully I don't know. Does anyone have feelings about what I've offered?
No, I think it makes sense. I have a question now, though. Do we have quorum with just three of us?
I guess we have to wait for Henry to reappear.
You don't.
We don't.
His
He
new computer must be
gotta
giving him
let
some technical
himself in.
difficulties.
I'm not
I should
sure.
just invite him to my house. He lives down the road from me. Oh, here he is.
So,
Ah,
yep.
hello.
Yeah. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, the archival project. That's the last bit of a business here. I sent out a few documents, and basically the roving archivist has visited us, and we did get some kind of input from them about what's happening at our old town hall. And I think we left it at getting back to them. I believe that was the last point made. So there's some legwork on it there, Aaron.
Yeah, I took a look at the report. It's really great to see that folks came in and sort of did that preliminary assessment. And so what I'm seeing as far as their recommendation goes is that on page 2, there are tasks described like carrying out an inventory, establishing collection policies, investigating digitization and thinking about digital preservation, environmental data logging, a disaster plan, grant funding, and staying connected with the roving archivist program. From my perspective, some of these are really straightforward tasks, that it looks like the inventory hasn't been completed. Is that right?
Correct.
Based on what you sent around.
I don't think so. No.
It does not.
And just to be clear, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, it's a really heavy lift, and so, you know, I think they have like set us up with a lot of resources in that report to get going on it. And I think I would like to sort of ask the group a question with respect to one of the steps, which is developing a collection development policy. And that is, you know, to what extent do we really think that we have the resources beyond the just like physical processing and getting an inventory done and getting things like foldered and boxed? Like, to what extent does the town really have the capacity to make to steward these materials in any length of like any kind of meaningful time commitment to stewardship? And how would we actually make them accessible to researchers? Like, do we have the resources for doing that, or do we have questions about what that? Can I answer your questions about what those kinds of things look like as a librarian? Maybe?
These are a collection of things that have been going on since 1976, and there is some structure and order to it. Time commitment. Nobody has time to do what needs to be done, and it keeps changing. You know, we've got them all filed in a sort of order. Right now, they're housed in a building that is very little on heat. It's a wooden structure. There's no fire protection. And no, it's not the town's highest priority. So it's volunteers like you and the rest of us trying to do what we can.
I mean, I think, you know, while there is a lot of, I think there's two ways to sort of look at this, right? One is we want to sort of create a set of goals to which we can hold ourselves accountable, right? We don't want to sort of say like, we're going to collect everything about everybody forever and then fail at that, because that would, you know, be a rather unpleasant reality for us to live through, right? Or do we sort of recognize what our capacity is, you know, and so I think what we need to do is recognize what our capacity is, and then set goals around that. I think there are also possibilities around, you know, is there openness among this group into thinking about an institutional steward like the American Antiquarian Society, who, you know, collects these kinds of materials, actively stewards them, has programs and reading spaces and catalog infrastructure to make it accessible to researchers, and are nationally known places where people are going to look at other stuff. So then they might encounter something like what comes from Shutesbury, and suddenly it's incorporated into their research in a way that maybe they would never have been able to come to us locally to think about. As someone, yeah, like, to me, that's another possibility that I know that it's hard to sort of say, like, maybe we wouldn't do an archives program long term, but I think it's an option we should consider because of the resource intensive nature of maintaining historic records in this way.
Can I comment on that as town clerk for 20 years and on the historical commission for a long time? I think what you're imagining isn't there. We have things like Polly Clark's family tablecloth. We do about some, we have some textbooks from the one-room schoolhouses, which are all in acid-free boxes. Our town clerk is responsible for, she's the keeper of the records. So any of our town votes and that sort of thing is in the vault and under the jurisdiction of the town clerk. Having been town clerk for all that period of time, whenever I was doing research for any purpose, if I saw, okay, there's a book on the earmarks that's in the vault. It's the town records, it's the town clerk's record and responsibility. I made a photocopy of it for the Historical Commission so that we could access it when we want. All the maps, the Beers Atlas and the state maps. The originals are available at the state level. The town's real copies are in the vault. We have copies in the Historical Commission. So there's very few things that are of value that are not photocopies, or, we've got a collection of books that various Shutesbury people authored. It's nice stuff. We've got them.
Okay, so there aren't actually more than a handful of historic records. It's really a collection of reference working documents that are, copies of things. So it sounds like actual historic paper isn't really part of the collection.
That's correct. Those things are mostly the town clerk. It's in the vault. We do have things.
Can you explain the difference, just as someone who's new to this?
Yeah, the town clerk is the keeper of the records for the town. So any town meeting vote, any meeting, any select board meeting, all the tax records, things like, if you go far enough back, I think one of our most valuable things is an original book of earmarks, which is the individual marks that people cut into their animals' ears when they were commonly grazed. That's in our vault. It's really a town record. Does not belong to the historic. Well, that's the other thing. Who do these things belong to? They belong to the town. They're under that. Those things are in the vault for the town clerk to take care of. We have one spring water bottle I put it in the vault to keep it safe. And then within that town hall building, there's things like our original ballot box. There's the weights and measures that the state gave us. There's big things that won't fit in the closet, but there's very little that I can think of that would say back in maybe it was the 70s, the town sent a collection of something to Amherst College, because it sounds like just what you're talking about. Amherst College doesn't even know they have it anymore. We sent some stuff to UMass, and you go there and you can dig it out, but they don't do research or reports on it. It's in their collections. But keeping it in town has its benefit. Because
I understand a lot better now. I really appreciate that context. It's really helpful. In the report, it talked about things like, I think on page 4, it says an example is like the Bennett family Lake Wyola papers. So I had the sense that maybe that was a characteristic or like emblematic collection item, and it sounds like it's not.
I'd be glad to show it to you.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to be able to see. I could almost walk there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to chime in that I did put out a request for advice on I guess a forum online. It's called Massachusetts Historical Preservation. It's based out of UMass Boston. Anybody familiar with this outfit? Yeah, they in any case, I put out a request for information. I got lots of responses.
Oh.
Most of them are saying CPA money will do it, will cover a lot of the expenses, as long as it's related to conservation.
Mhm.
There's also references to I guess major libraries, Boston Library. There are libraries that will do digitalization for free.
Wow.
And thirdly,
The inventory, I will say though, the inventory is a first step. Like I think Digital
Mhm.
Commonwealth is a great option for digitization. I
Okay.
assure you that without receiving an inventory first, they're gonna, if you approach them and say, hey, we have stuff, can you come over and digitize it? They're gonna say, you need to send us an inventory first, because
Okay. Yeah.
without an inventory, imagine if someone wanted you to do that. You'd be like, well, how much is it?
And
Like,
what
how much stuff is there? How many
Exactly.
days do I have to spend? How many
Yeah.
resources do I have to devote to this project? So until the inventory is done, I think we will probably be in a holding pattern.
Okay. Yeah.
But
and how valuable is it to the greater world to?
Yep. And there are also references to, for instance, Carnegie Mellon has a grant for community archiving. The deadline has passed.
I think
But
that's the
yeah.
kind of thing that would maybe fund the work to do the inventory. I think that digitization is more tricky when we think about the fact that it's a lot of, I would love to maybe, Leslie, now that I have your email, I can catch up with you and have maybe get some time to visit in person. Because I'm not sure if someplace like Digital Commonwealth, which you can Google, it will come right up.
Mhm.
They work with Boston Public, and it's Massachusetts, New England focused. But I'm not sure if they'll digitize Xeroxes of originals, that especially if it's just a fragment of a thing. So if it's like one article about Shutesbury that was within a larger text, like a newspaper, I'm not sure if they'll say yes to that.
Okay.
No. Anyway,
Because it's
yeah.
the fragmentary nature of it makes it a little bit,
Mhm.
it might actually be digitized someplace already.
Right. I guess my point is that there are lots of possibilities for funding different aspects of it, and I will forward these emails. Or, my God, lots of input here. Yeah, lots of emails. I was waiting for them, and they just keep coming in for the last month. They've been coming in.
Wow.
Yep. So the inventory then. Should we be looking for funding to do that, or is that something that the the roving archivist might help to orchestrate?
I think it's important for Erin. Is that your name? I'm sorry. Who is the new person?
Oh, sorry, you
Erin.
can't see me, Erin.
Yes, I can
Nodding.
see you. Can't see me, but I think that she has a good sense of what processes have to happen first. And I
Yeah.
think if she has a sense of what is in the old town hall, the 1829 town hall,
Mhm.
then that's a more appropriate discussion at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like she's got the overview
Mm-hmm.
as well, and soon she will have the actual.
I guess, Erin, you haven't been to the town, the actual
18
location,
No,
have you? No.
Been too cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, give it a couple weeks.
The
I don't know.
report that the roving archivist submitted is really, really handy. If you haven't taken a look at it in a while, it's
Okay.
worth it's worth reading, because it's really straightforward. There's also on page 24, there's a list of grants and resources. Like,
Yep.
they really did a good job in spelling out what needs to be done.
Yep.
And I think, I'm not sure if it says whether the roving archivist will come back and do the inventory.
I don't think,
Leslie, do you remember?
I don't think it does. I have not reread it in a while, maybe a year, when we talked about this last time.
Mhm.
What a lot, I guess I would further add to my conversation about this is that many towns have historical societies, and a lot of the stuff that's in the historical commission closet would normally be at a society level. Private stuff, the town stuff is the town stuff. But we don't have a society, so we're doing what a private organization might otherwise do.
Mhm.
It says that the roving archivist program on, this is the very top of page 3, is available for ongoing advice, guidance, and training. I don't think that means actually completing the inventory, but you know, if maybe if we wanted to organize like a training event, you know, that might be
Mhm.
a nice way to put them to work for us.
Okay. Well, we'll let this percolate a bit and maybe get back to it at our next meeting. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I actually called Karen Zvonka, who is another member, longtime member who's but I didn't get her on the phone, and I left her a message too. And we talked last week or week before, I can't remember now. So I hope she's okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on the archiving? No. Any unanticipated business? And if not, then next meeting. This is apparently a good evening for most people. 6 o'clock Wednesdays. Yes.
Yeah, it's
In a
okay for
month.
me.
Shall we do it in a month? So that would put us in. Let's see. April. We have April 16th, April 23rd.
So in April and May and much of June, Wednesdays are actually not going to be good for me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. I'd
be happy to like make a little meeting poll and send it out by email just so that the folks who aren't here can weigh in too. Is that handy?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, I have to make the reservations and with the town, so it might be simpler for me to do that.
Sure.
Send it out, yeah. But so yeah, Tuesdays were. What about Tuesdays, Mateo? Is that workable for you?
Yes, they are.
15:22. Does that work for everybody else who's present? Or at least for now. I will send out a poll. You may want to check your calendars. So that might be, it could be the 15th or the 22nd. Then
Okay.
I'll check with everybody. All right. We haven't voted on anything. So I guess we can vote on the end of the meeting. Yeah. We can end the meeting on a vote.
Okay.
So I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, good.
All right, so let's see. Geddes, McGurl. McGurl?
Yeah,
Aaron.
that's it. You nailed it.
Roll
Panga-
call vote. You need to say you approve to adjourn.
I approve. Thank you.
Yes, affirmative. Thank you.
Affirmative. Yay.
Pangalo
Aye.
and Stone.
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Yep.
Bye.
Good night.